Okay, we're going to finish up notes 2-2. So in number 9, we are still trying to find the equations of the lines. So on number 9, we're trying to find the equation that would be parallel to 3x minus 4y equals 8 and passing through the point 5, negative 3. We want it in standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. Okay, so we know that parallel lines have slopes that are the same, which means we need to find the slope of this equation. If we know the slope of that equation, we will know the slope of the new equation. So I'm going to write down that equation, 3x minus 4y equals 8. In order to find the slope of this equation, I'm going to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3x. So that's negative 4y equals negative 3x plus 8. And then I'm dividing everything by negative 4. So you should have y equals positive 3/4 x, and that would be minus 2. So now all we care about on this equation is the slope, because we are trying to find the slope of the new line. So we're looking at the slope, which is 3/4. So since we now know the slope of the new line, and we know a point that it goes through, we're going to use that point slope form. So if you remember that, it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I'm going to plug in. I know the slope, which is m, and then I know a point that it passes through. So I'm going to have y minus the y value of the point, which is a negative 3, so that would make it positive 3, equals the slope, 3/4 times x minus the x value of the point, which is 5. Okay, so I'm going to distribute next. So that's 3/4 x. When you're multiplying fractions, multiply the top times top, so that's 15. The bottom times bottom, which is 4. Okay, so now we are wanting to put it in standard form. So you can either move the x to the same side as the y, or the y to the same side as the x. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to subtract the y over, and then I'm going to add the 15 over 4. So those cancel out. So the right side, I should have 3/4 x minus y. And then I'm needing to add 3 with 15 over 4. So remember, you have to get a common denominator. So the common denominator would need to be a 4. So I'll multiply the top by a 4, which would make it 12 over 4. So I only add the numerators, so that would be 27 over 4. Okay, so once I get to that point, remember you have to check your a on your standard form. It has to be positive, which it is, but it also has to be an integer, and notice it's a fraction. So we're going to have to multiply everything on this equation by the denominator. So when you do that, that cancels the denominator out on that, so that's 27 equals, it cancels the denominator out on that, so that's 3x, and then minus 4y. So there would be your standard form. And you can rewrite it as 3x minus 4y equals 27 if you want. Okay, so multiple steps on that one. Looking at number 10, it says this time we want to find the equation that's perpendicular. Notice that's the same equation over there. So we already found the slope to be 3 over 4. So we already know the slope of that equation because we just found it on number 9. So we want the line to be perpendicular and to pass through 3, negative 11. We want it in slope-intercept form. So when we have perpendicular lines, their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other, which means that our new slope, the negative, we change the sign to negative, we flip the fraction, it becomes 4/3. So there's our slope and our point. We're going to plug it into the point slope form. So y minus, our y value is -11, so that would make it +11, equals m, which is -4/3, because it's perpendicular, and then times x minus our x value of the point, which is 3. So we will distribute next. So you're going to get -4/3 x, and then the denominator cancels out with that 3, so that would make it a +4 there. -4/3 times a -3, the 3's cancel out, you just have left a +4. Okay, then we're getting y by itself because we want it in slope-intercept form, so subtract 11. You get y equals -4/3 x, and that would be -7. And there's your slope-intercept form. So the two things you need to remember from 9 and 10, parallel lines have the same slopes, perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. Okay, these last two here, we are actually going to be using a calculator, so you need to have your calculator out. Anytime you are given a table, you are going to use the calculator. So what you will do is you will plug in these points. So working on the calculator, you're going to do stat, edit. Once you do stat edit, you're going to type that into L1 will be your x values, L2 will be your y values. So type those in. Once you have those entered in, you're going to go back to stat. You're going to go over to calc. So use that right arrow key. And then after you've done that, you're going to choose linear because we're trying to find the linear equation. So we're going to choose number 4. Once you do that, you're going to go all the way down, move it all the way down to calculate at the bottom, and then press enter. When you press enter, it should say y equals ax plus b, which is the same thing as y equals mx plus b. And then it gives you what a equals, it gives you what b equals. So if you typed this in, you should be seeing y equals, your a on this one is 0.3 repeating. You need to change that to a fraction, which would be 1/3 x. And then your b, it's saying is -2. So once you find that, that's always going to be in slope-intercept form, but notice this one we want it in standard form. So we're going to move the x and the y on the same side. And you get -1/3 x plus y equals -2. Okay, remember anytime you're putting it in standard form, a must be positive and a whole number. Notice it's a negative fraction. So to get rid of the -1/3, I'm going to multiply by -3. So that's going to become positive x minus 3y equals 6. And there's our standard form. Okay, so number 12, we're also given a table. You can, if you don't have a calculator, you could also choose 2 points, find the slope of that. Once you find the slope of those 2 points, you can use the point slope form, pick one of the points and plug it in. Okay, so remember, here's your steps for the calculator. So stat edit to type them in. Remember, L1 is your x values, L2 are your y values. Type those in. And then you'll go back to stat over to calc number 4. Go all the way down to calculate. And then on this one, you should get y equals a, which is the same thing as m. Your slope is -5. And then your b is -3. Notice we want it in slope-intercept form, so that's all we have to do on that one. Okay, if you have any questions, just make sure that you're coming in to get the help.